Have you ever drawn a face and it ends up sucking? Like something like this, or like this, or like ooh, like this one, especially this one. Well, chances are you probably don't know the Loomis method. Now, this is like the basic like kind of building block structure that like pretty much every um, I don't know, somewhat experienced artist will learn. And it's good to have this method like memorized. So the Loomis method is very simple, but it's good for getting like proportions of the head, and you can end up drawing heads from like any angle. Proko has done like a whole series on this, is super popular, but I kind of want to put he has spread up across like 5 videos. So I kind of want to just put the Loomis head all in one video because it's really not complex enough to need, you know, a bunch of different videos on it. So if we come here, what we're going to do is start off with a circle. How I kind of draw circles is I just draw a bunch of circles all in one until it's kind of something that I like. And then you're going to want to figure out which way the head is facing. So kind of just choose a direction, or maybe you want to do it straight on, but I'll do a kind of 3/4 view for this because I think this is the best view for demonstration purposes. But find the line, just draw it down. So this is going to kind of represent the middle of your head, right where your nose line is. And then go around halfway through, and we're going to draw another little line here. And we're going to turn this into another circle, but it's kind of squashed because the perspective is different. So at this, as if we're cutting off a slice, like if you take a tennis ball and you cut off 2 little sides, you can't really see this side, but that's essentially what we're doing here. Now we're going to choose a line, good position for a line that goes right down the middle, or across the middle, I guess. Now this is important that this line right here is straight because it's going off a straight ball, or a straight like kind of wedge of the ball. This is basically a flat plane, whereas this is curved. So we're gonna want to put a slight curve of like the brow line right here. And now, so this is going to be the line, not where the eyes are, but where the eyebrows are. This is the brow ridge. And then we can also make sure that we draw a line that's parallel to this line. It goes up. So that we got across here on this little plane. And then this is actually where the ear is going to go. So if you want to rough in a rough ear, make sure the tip of the ear kind of comes up and touches this. So yeah, usually it's going to be quite level with the brow, but since this head is looking down a little bit, and we can see that he's looking down because this line is angled down kind of this way, yeah, so his ears are going to be slightly above, but if he was looking up, it would be the other way around. The ears would be slightly below. So we're going to want to go about halfway from this point to this point, right around here. So this is going to be the hairline, and we'll come back to that later, but that's just like for reference where it is. And now if you want to just kind of roughly divide up the head into thirds, so like this is 1/3, so you can simply do it that way. So 1/3 comes here, around 1/3 here. We can also draw a line from the bottom that's roughly, parallel to the brow ridge line. This is gonna be where the bottom of the nose is. And then if we go about the same distance, we'll get the chin. But then you'll kind of notice that it makes his head look super wide, or not super wide, super long, super tall. And that's because we aren't thinking about foreshortening or perspective. So we kind of just want to very subtly shorten it. Actually, I can put it right there. And then right about there. That looks like a better place for the chin. So now here we want to kind of rough in a jawline. We're going to want to bring this line down a little bit and then connect it up this way. Alright. Now, this is the nose line. So this is your basic Loomis head. But now it's a little more useful if we go through and add some kind of basic planes. Planes of the head. Now this won't be anything as complex as the Asaro head, but I'll get into that a bit later because I'm gonna get into the method that I use to draw heads, which is a combination of the Asaro head, the Riley method, and the Loomis method. It's actually one that I learned from Engel. So if we draw a plane that's sunken in here from the brow line down, you'll notice that it makes it look a lot more 3D. And this is really how skulls kind of are shaped. They come in. And if we didn't draw this, then it would look a lot more flat, which is, we're trying to draw like a 3D head. If you come from this little line in the center of the chin, then I like to bring it right up to the middle of the cross section. So this is kind of, it's a line that runs along your cheekbone. Once we get into the Asaro head, then there'll be a lot more for the cheekbone, but this is just a good placeholder for now. The Asaro head, like once you learn how to draw it, you'll learn where to draw the cheekbones, how to draw them correct each time. And then now we're going to get into some basic planes for the nose. So what we're going to want to do here is draw this little trapezoid shape up here, and then draw another one, but we got to take into account perspective. So since we aren't looking at it like straight on, this is going to kind of pop out that way. So there's some, there's some space in between it and the cheek, obviously. It's not going to be like a straight on, nose like from that angle. That won't work. So then we connect up this line to here and this line to here. And I just like to draw little triangles for the wings that cover the nostrils, and then they kind of come back. So these are like basic kind of geometrical planes. So it's like 3D. It's actually, suggesting 3D form. And then from here, we want to figure out where the mouth is. So I like to go a little bit above halfway between the bottom of the nose and the chin. And then we'll draw a little triangle here, but then we'll put a little dip in this triangle. Now this is going to be right where the lips is. This is called the philtrum. There's this little gap right between your mouth and your lips. And then we draw draw these little kind of two lines that go up, and then bring this. Actually, if you want to figure out a good way to find out how wide you want to make your mouths, just kind of separate, go right in between this kind of corner, which will be the corner of the brow, and where the nose starts. So this is going to be roughly where our pupils are. So if we just kind of go straight down from here, that's about how wide you want to make your mouth. Now actually we need to curve that a little for perspective. So yeah, right around here is good. And then we can just kind of eyeball it. That'll be right here on this side. Now, since this is the top lip, we're going to want to make another kind of trapezoid shape. Actually, let's make this stick out a little better. Draw another little trapezoid shape right here for the bottom of the lips. Connect that up. So here we have like kind of rough geometry for the lips. And now it's also important to note that the chin right here isn't flat. If you look at my lip, it goes in a little bit before it reaches the chin. Now this is like the kind of lip muscle reaching the jawbone, where the chin, where the actual bone of the skull of the chin is. So we're gonna draw a little trapezoid that comes in here and then comes out, and then this actually here we won't see as much of it because the lips are kind of covering it, since we're looking almost like we're looking down at this head. Yeah. So once we get this done, we make sure we got this little trapezoid for the chin. We're going to want to go up to the hairline and kind of bring this out a little bit. And you can kind of curve it a little bit like it's going along the head, just very subtly, because hairlines are pretty flat, straight lines. We're going to want to bring this down just below the eye level, or roughly where it would be if we were looking straight on, so it's actually going to be a little bit above the eye level here. We can connect this line with that point right there, and then come down, draw another little plane. And also, if you want to kind of get in to add some geometry for the head, I like to kind of just draw them out like this. For the ear, I mean, not the head. If you want to, kind of draw some shapes in for the hair. And the thing with hair is that you want it to be very, when you're first blocking it in, make sure you're actually like blocking in what the rough forms of it would be. Don't just kind of draw something that's to be like on top of the head. Actually draw in some boxes, some lines, something that indicates 3D form. I'm actually going to use something that is good for if you're on Photoshop. It's this liquify tool. Actually kind of, you can have a lot of variation within the head. So I kind of want to change this head a little bit. I noticed that it seems like there's a pretty long gap in between his nose and his mouth, or in the nose and his chin. So we're gonna kind of stop that or change that a bit. And I mean, yeah, this is basically the Loomis method. Now, if you want to add some basic eyes, so go in just a little bit in from the corner of the brow. And the glabella up here, and then draw in this shape. So we want there are 3 planes on the top of the eye and then 2 on the bottom. So you want to avoid kind of drawing like almond shapes like this, because it looks pretty bad, as you can see. We want to go for something a little more 3-dimensional. And then remember, you want to add another couple planes like right on top and right on the bottom. But this is still basic planes. If we want to, when we go more in depth on the Azaro head, then I'll really kind of flesh out these sections. But this is essentially everything. And I just drew this completely from memory, which I think is really important to have this method memorized. Because then you don't need like a Loomis head like reference whenever you're drawing anything, and it can help speed up your drawing time, because then you can use that space for different reference, more useful reference or stylistic reference, or what do you want? Actually, my eyes are a little wonky here, but that's because I use the combination of the Riley method to find good placement of the eyes. So the Riley method makes use of curves in the face, so we'll be getting into that later. But yeah, and just remember that these are relationships essentially. You're not learning how to draw a plane on 3/4, you're learning how to draw it from any angle, really, as long as you kind of get used to drawing with foreshortening. So if we want to draw it from straight on ahead, we're going to do the same exact thing. So I'll just do that here. I'm going to cut off the edges. Line down the middle. Brow line. Nose line. Chin. And you can really draw chins any like shape you want, because that's very indicative of the character. And you can also kind of mess with these like thirds. This doesn't have to exactly be, these thirds like this for the face. You can stretch them very subtle, because if you stretch them very subtly, it'll have pretty drastic effects. And remember, here's where the glabella attaches to the bottom of the nose, some nostril planes. Now, actually, from the front view, you can kind of easier see how this comes out. There are a lot of planes flying today, apparently. Now remember that this little section of the chin, it's not 2 planes, it's 3. So we're going to want to draw this little hourglass shape that, kind of, if we look at this from the side, it's like it goes inside, this is the lip, kind of coming. Just remember this little gap right there. Then we draw this little trapezoid right here for the chin, and then this is going to connect up to this little point right below the eyes I talked about before. So right here. You can draw this little point on the side. It's very subtle because foreshortening basically makes it invisible. So, and here, if we kind of, now right here, the hairline is not going to be exactly like halfway up. It's going to be a little bit higher since we're viewing the head straight on. Like there's this section of the head is foreshortened. So we can kind of curve it very subtly along, and then it goes down to that other point that we mentioned. These kind of look like Easter Island heads or something. Drawing some basic geometry for the hair. Something that actually has form will help you later in the drawing. And then yeah, and then if we want to go right here, we can draw the eyes. My eyes usually look pretty pouty, so let's not make a pouty eye. And actually, I just made a mistake there. You want to actually come in a little bit from the glabella. So fix that. Here. And then repeat the same on this side. Try to make the eyes as symmetrical as you can. Doing this over and over again will help your eyes get more symmetrical, and it's always about tweaking. I usually don't get them right on like the first try, and these are a little wonky, but it's okay because they serve the purpose. I usually draw eyes pretty big actually, so for sake of realism, let's make the pupil a little smaller. And also, if you want to, we can draw in some guides for laugh lines. Now, these are the kind of wrinkles that you're going to want to get rid of if you're doing a younger character, but, you know, load them up if you're doing somebody older. And also with women, it's usually just a good idea to keep the wrinkles very, very low. So yeah, and here's the front view. And then if we go into the profile view, side view, it's still just the very same thing. You just got to kind of think about the relationships and how they work together. So we're drawing in the circle, and then this is the side view of the circle. Got chopped off, and then we can kind of draw in our little cross here. And then our character will be looking this way. And then we can draw in an ear right here. Bring these lines forward. Then when we draw the nose, since this plane is from the side, we just need to draw it like a line. But actually, we got to make sure that we draw in this brow ridge. So then this nose kind of comes forward like this, a little triangle for the nostrils, and then it kind of comes up this way. So really make sure that you're connecting up all the planes in a way that makes sense, like it's an actual 3D figure. We want to come here to the lips. I should make this a little bit further. So they're going to come forward. You know, the lips protrude, they're not flat on the face. And then the bottom lip tends to protrude a little more. I don't know if you can see it on me. When you're drawing the eyes here, it's important to make sure that you're not drawing them as if they're, you know, coming from straight on, like this. They're from the side, so they're going to be more basically just reduced to that with some extra, you know, geometry, like a triangle with the circle on the inside. And yeah, this is basically it. This is a whole Loomis method, or at least how in depth to it I went to learn to get better proportions and everything. And I mean, this is really essentially all you need to learn from the method. You just gotta memorize it and remember the kind of proportions and the relationships, because then even if you stretch them, you're gonna get a face that's, you know, symmetrical. It's proportional in the relationships. Even if you're doing something like a caricature or a cartoon character, this just helps to make it look more believable, adds more structure to it. So I mean, yeah, that's it. Hope you learned something, but yeah, peace.